Hey, it's your old pal Lucid Stu again, and this is Stu's News, a review of American high-speed rail happenings over the past month. In this November 2023 episode, we'll take a look at what went down in October. Let's start with California High-Speed Rail and the biggest news of the month. The California High-Speed Rail Authority put out an update on the Los Angeles to Anaheim portion as part of the November 2nd board meeting. The current 2018 plan wanted to add a track to the BNSF right-of-way, segregate freight onto two tracks, and leave the other two for California High-Speed Rail, Amtrak, and Metrolink. That idea required offloading excess freight to a new intermodal yard 50 miles east in Colton. Local response to that idea has been justifiably negative given the amount of freight rail and truck traffic already moving through the area. As a result, the authority worked up some alternatives to the 2018 plan. These include tunneling, a shift to Union Pacific right-of-way, and the shared passenger track alternative. Cost estimates for the tunneling proposals are 10 to 20 billion more than the current plan, and as we know, the California High-Speed Rail Authority is under the gun about the exploding cost of the project. The shared passenger track alternative would electrify 2 out of 4 tracks like the current alternative. However, freight would be able to run on all 4. This has obvious impacts on speed and safety. In addition, the authority is thinking of ditching intermediate stations at Norwalk and Fullerton. This would be a good thing if we were talking about true high-speed rail, but if it's just electrified commuter rail, why not stop everywhere? They're also talking about not expanding the double-tracked layout between Fullerton and Anaheim. In addition, they're now talking about skipping most grade separations in that area, so you're looking at reduced service to Anaheim. This begs the question, what is the point of these 33 miles of service beyond politics? And by the rhetoric, it sounds like the California High-Speed Rail Authority is leaning toward the shared track alternative because it's the cheapest and easiest, and that is the corner they have painted themselves into. There are still 2 years left in the planning and clearance process. We'll see what happens. The downtown extension of rail lines from the 4th and King station to the Salesforce Transit Center in downtown San Francisco has received CEQA environmental approval, which brings it one step closer to construction. The project, which has been rebranded as The Portal, is expected to begin construction in 2025. The price tag for the 2-mile tunnel has recently ballooned to $8.2 billion. However, $700 million of that is for infrastructure already built, and funds have been identified to cover 3/4 of the overall cost. It needs to be noted this local transit project is not funded by the California High-Speed Rail Authority. The agencies involved are hoping to have this completed in 2032, so it should be in place by the time California High-Speed Rail could reach San Francisco and utilize it. The city of Hanford has received $650,000 from Caltrans to plan sustainable transportation options between the city and California High-Speed Rail's Hanford Station, which is 3 miles from downtown. Given the distance, you're probably talking bike lanes and additional local bus services. Still continuing inner-city rail grant lobbying season, California Governor Gavin Newsom has sent a cordial letter not to Federal Railroad Administration Administrator Amit Bose or Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, but to President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. The guy isn't directly involved in the reward process, but okay. Let's check out the Finance and Audit Committee meeting reports. Capital Outlay Budget Summary, $206.1 million expended in August. That's closer to the amount we're looking for. By comparing the budget expended and fiscal year completed percentages, you can see they are ahead on expenditure after a weak start last month. 90% of the August expenditure is toward the design-build process, so that is a big positive. That is also reflected in the construction workforce continuing to expand, currently at 1,384 active workers. Those positive signs are not yet reflected in results, though. 2 miles of guideway completed in August and 1 new structure initiated compared to July. Keep in mind, these F&A reports are 2 months behind. All of that is tempered by preliminary September data on the low side, but we'll have to wait until next month to see what the true numbers are. The CP4 earned value chart we've been looking at for a while. August results at 95.5% actual earned value, which means they're behind schedule, but we already know this. The chart predicts December 2023 final completion will not be delayed, so we'll see if that holds. Risk contingency, $149 million expended in August, with another $411 million predicted over the next 3 months. So much for our positive trend. If this continues, it would put them over budget again at the end of next year, 2024. In the contingency summary, we can see a good portion of that came from large change orders in the CP23 section of the initial 119-mile Central Valley segment. With that, let's say goodbye to California High-Speed Rail and hello to Acela and the NEC. Amtrak's Office of Inspector General put out a report speculating the new Alstom Avelia Liberties would likely miss their new schedule for release and be delayed yet again. We talked about these new train sets being delayed in May. This is on top of that. The main hangup is the computer model of the train set that Alstom is supposed to provide to Amtrak as part of testing. This report indicates pretty much everyone but Alstom is mystified as to why Alstom is having trouble. Part of the issue is that Alstom started building the train sets before the model was complete. You can blame both Alstom and Amtrak for this. As a result, the in-service range looks like it will slip from late 2024, could be looking at 3 years late or more. One consequence of this is an aging Acela Express fleet, which is now being cannibalized to keep the service going. One hopes the new train sets aren't delayed to the point of impacting current service. In other NEC news, the Connecticut State Bond Commission approved $1.1 billion in transportation bonds. About half that will go toward NEC projects, including bridge replacements we've talked about previously. A slightly different project among these is the demolition of the Stamford Station parking garage. Stamford is a city of 135,000 in Connecticut, 30 miles east of New York City. NEC infrastructure here doubles up with MTA North. In this case, a parking garage is being moved from a desirable spot next to the station to a more suitable spot between the tracks and Interstate 95. The old parking garage will be demolished and replaced by mixed-use development. Because of various infrastructure improvements, the area around the Stamford station is developing rapidly. Looking at Amtrak results for August of fiscal year 2023, NEC revenues were off about 20% from July's numbers, and most of the difference came out of operating earnings. I fed the Amtrak data I could get into a spreadsheet so it's easier to comprehend. It goes to show that once usage hits the break-even point, operating profits stack up pretty quickly for a well-utilized service. Amtrak's NEC services are seasonal. However, I only have 12 months of data at the moment, so we'll have to wait a few months to see if this is a normal August dip or a downward trend. Okay, that's enough NEC news. Let's take a look at a new competitor for federal funds. Kansas City is one of the U.S. host cities for the World Cup in 2026, and officials there are using that as an excuse to go hunting for federal funds. The Department of Transportation is happy to oblige and announced a funding partnership. Among the projects mentioned is a 21-mile high-speed rail connection between Kansas City International Airport and downtown Kansas City. Price tag, $10.5 billion. Now, if I'm building a high-speed rail line for the World Cup, I'd probably extend that another 7 or 8 miles to Arrowhead Stadium at the Truman Sports Complex, but that's just me. Seems like a 0% chance they could build this by 2026, but we'll keep an eye on it. Speaking of unlikely projects, Northeast Maglev spent the year lobbying Maryland harder than any other company. Northeast Maglev hopes to build a 314 mile per hour levitating rail line between Washington, D.C. and New York City, the first phase of which would run from D.C. to Baltimore. The environmental review process has been paused by the feds, and currently Baltimore politicians oppose the project, but we'll see what happens in the long term. Now on to Texas, first with Texas Central. In reaction to Amtrak teaming up with Texas Central for grant proposals, a couple of Texas congressmen sent a letter to Amit Bose expressing that they don't want money in Texas. It's a waste of taxpayer money, etc., and some xenophobia thrown in for good measure. Although they are both Republicans, it's difficult to put it down to pure ideology because neither of them are extreme right according to govtrack.us. And so the condition of high-speed rail being a political football in the US persists. On the Dallas-Fort Worth high-speed transportation front, the North Central Texas Council of Governments had some open houses and showed off some neato maps detailing the route. This starts in Fort Worth, underground by Fort Worth Central Station, travels along Interstate 30 trenched in the median, back underground for a station at Arlington within a mile of 3 different stadiums and Six Flags Over Texas. Odd choice keeping the station under the freeway though, probably would work better under one of the enormous parking lots in the area. From there east to Dallas, mostly aerial along the side of the freeway, and then ending at the same station site as Texas Central Railroad. And now on to Cascadia High-Speed Rail. The Washington Department of Transportation put out an RFQ for general engineering consultants on a 2-year contract worth $8.5 million. This is in anticipation of federal grant awards that will allow Washington and the other Cascadia region participants to finally figure out if they want to build high-speed rail. Moving back south, let's check in with Brightline West. No movement from the Surface Transportation Board so far. More political support ahead of federal-state partnership for intercity passenger rail grants, this time from San Bernardino County in California. The County Board of Supervisors passed a resolution supporting the project. Those grant decisions should drop sometime in November of this year, 2023. And now it's time for Stu's Boo Boos, where we point out everything I got wrong last month. We talked about the Susquehanna River Bridge in Maryland. I pronounced this Susquehanna. Thanks to Weewers for that one, and no boo-boos if I said Weewers wrong. Next up is one I caught right after I published the video last month. In regards to the vote on HR 1435, the Preserving Choice in Vehicle Purchases Act, I got the vote wrong. I said it was 222 to 199. The actual vote in the House was 222 to 190. These two boo-boos have led to some Stu's Boo-Boos rule changes. Firstly, I'm not allowed to claim boo-boos until I publish the next month's video. If I do, as was the case previously, you all lose a gold star, because you're supposed to catch those. I will not, however, be able to negate boo-boos early. That's not fair to you guys. Number 2, pronunciation, grammar, spelling, and those types of mistakes are ineligible for gold stars. Please do continue to point them out even if you're wrong, like with Lancaster, for instance. However, those mistakes are just too easy to make and too OP for the game that is Stu's Boo-Boos. So you guys get 1 gold star this month, which brings your total to 8 silver stars for me, still a measly 1. As always, point out a valid boo-boo witnessed in this video and win a prize. And if you have any opinions about this presentation or just high-speed rail in general, please share them in the comments. Plenty more Federal Railroad Administration high-speed rail corridor videos and more high-speed rail city pair videos to come, and of course another Stu's News, this time on the first Friday of December. But that's all for now. Until next time, I'll see you on that big beautiful freeway.